Hey guys, this is Vinay and you're watching my show, Let's Talk. Today I have another very interesting guest on my show. He started to learn classical at the age of 3. He's gone across the world to perform. He knows everybody and anybody in the Chennai city. And he's worked with some of the biggest stalwarts in the city. He's none other than pianist Anil Srinivasan. Anil, welcome to the show.
Hi,
Thank you
Vinay.
for taking time and coming on the show.
Welcome.
You've been extremely helpful in this journey that I took on Let's Talk with Vinay Chennai edition. Thank you for all of that.
Very welcome.
Started at the age of 3. Sounds a little, surreal. What happened when you were 3?
I think it's just a lie that
Okay.
my parents have put out so that people think that I'm
Like a
child
little
prodigy.
small piano that you
I'm
were...
just kidding. Yeah, apparently I started playing when I was in kindergarten. I don't remember any of it. But apparently the first instrument that I played was the piano, and when I was 3 years old. And I walked up to the piano teacher in my school, in my elementary school, and said I want to play, and she thought it was just a child asking for, just to play around. But apparently I played a tune. It's one of those things. I mean, had it happened today, I would have been a Facebook sensation, but
But then back then social media was
you
not
can
that.
tell how old I am, so we
Yeah.
just have to take my word for it.
So you started playing, you took an inclination towards that, and parallelly your studies was happening.
Mhm.
You went to New York to study your MBA,
My PhD.
PhD.
Yeah.
So while you were doing your PhD, you also took a certification in music, is it?
No, so I had studied classical piano up until the time that I was 17 or
Mhm.
18 in India.
Okay.
In New York, my studies were, I would say, extremely experiential, immersive, and anecdotal. I don't think it was intentional.
Okay.
In the sense that the PhD was consuming most of my time and most of my positivity, and I desperately needed to. It was my time in New York, which was between 2001 and 2006, that I felt a calling to go back to music.
Okay.
I had for 10 years, for various reasons, both personal as well as financial, I had totally gone into other fields. I was working in advertising, I'd gone into market research, I was doing so many other things. But this 2001, the calling was becoming extremely
Within you.
Within me. 2003, U. Srinivas, who remains to this day my personal hero,
Yeah.
and everything that I symbolize music to be, came to stay with me in New York. We were very good friends, he and Rajesh, his brother. And I think it was after their visit and a couple of other instances like that after that, that I decided that I need to come back to music full time. It was also largely helped by the fact that I was not enjoying my PhD at all. So it
Did you
made the
complete it
decision.
eventually?
No, I did my MPhil, I did my qualifiers, and then I took all but dissertation, and I said, I think I've studied enough about marketing ketchup bottles. It's high time I came back to something that I'm clearly good at, and clearly I feel that I'm born to do.
But was it tough to let go of corporate and money and steady income and all that?
There's actually quite a lot of money in music, so I don't think so.
But at the initial
Initially, yes.
stage,
Yeah, initially, yes. It was hard. It's a tough choice. I had student loans because I'd taken student loans to do my MBA in the States as well.
Yeah.
I wasn't very wealthy or anything like that, so it was an extremely tough choice.
And self-made.
Self-made. Everything, including my hairstyle, is self-made.
Understand.
So I think it's a conscious decision on my part to do the one thing that I really feel my heart, mind, body, and soul is in.
And while you were doing, I understand that you've not only learned Indian but also Western classical.
Mhm.
And apart from piano, what about the vocals?
Well, I used to sing a lot when I was a child, and I did have vocal lessons as a child. Everybody in Chennai has vocal lessons when they're children.
Yeah.
But my voice broke, and I think the choice became a little obvious that I need to stick to the piano, because if I sang, I don't think I'd have the kind of audience that I enjoy today.
And collaboration is something that is inborn in you.
Mhm.
Maybe because of the personality that you are, you're very outspoken, social, friendly. And because of that, you have collaborated with some of the biggest names in the music industry. How difficult or how easy is it?
It's not difficult. I think most of the people that I've worked with, and I've had the privilege of working with, like you said, some of the biggest names. I think fundamentally I like to connect with people as people. Fundamentally, I think art comes from the very idea of being human.
Yeah.
And as long as you understand that, and I think if you've experienced pain and if you've suffered a little bit, right? It makes you even more human than you were before. And I think that's the one strain on which all people connect.
Yeah.
And the greatest names that you know are people who've gone through that suffering. And I think when you empathize with that human being at a very human level, I think the collaboration automatically
And the
follows.
connection gets
Yeah.
developed.
And music is the air we breathe. Music is not something removed from who we are, right? It's so how your personality is, how your being is, that your music will be.
I understand.
And that's how the collaborations happen.
And what about collaborations? You know, we were talking about collaborations where you collaborate with some of the biggest names. How difficult is it in terms of maintaining equations in relationships?
I think I'm a very open person, and therefore I haven't had any issues with anyone.
Okay.
I've been friendly with everybody, and to be honest, I genuinely like everybody I've collaborated with as people. Frankly, that comes first. Unless I like them as people, I genuinely
You wouldn't
tend
go
not
and
to work with them
collaborate,
after
yeah.
that. So, and therefore, I think because we have related as people, it's all been great.
And because of such wonderful collaborations, you also released your album.
I've released 15.
15 albums already.
Yeah.
And then when you go and make your next album, or when you're thinking about making albums, what concepts you think in mind, and do you take into account what the generation is required?
See, I'll put it to you this way. I did an album recently called Touch, which was just about 6 months ago. I think it's the first album of its kind for India, because I've taken the piano and I'm playing everything in it, from classical and jazz and Indian classical to what we call in Tamil Nadu as Dapanguttu, which is, you know, this particular beat. Who would have thought a piano? So this very sophisticated instrument, right? You can imagine Hindi film heroines draped across it, and suddenly you're having that right in the middle of the street. So I find that I need to have a story to tell, right? Like everything else, like a movie, right? If a good movie is one where the story is good, it's not necessarily, you know, great acting or great songs. I think it's about the story being something that you could connect with.
Story is very important to express yourself, says pianist Anil Srinivasan. We're going to be right back. Anil, now getting into the segment where we're going to talk a little bit about the serious stuff on the show. One thing is, in Chennai edition, we are spreading awareness on cancer. It's very alarming to know that India as a country, we're going to have a lot more people diagnosed with cancer because of the lifestyle and all the stuff that we are up to. So you've worked a lot in terms of social causes and social issues and stuff. What do you want to tell people who are watching this in terms of spreading awareness on the issue?
I think we as a country, first of all, need to become more self-aware on every dimension. I don't think cancer is the only one.
Yeah.
I think in general hygiene, in general health, I think both of it. Early detection for anything, especially cancer, I think is
save life,
is your cure, actually. I think the idea of getting yourself checked up regularly, even if you're starting to experience symptoms as banal as just fatigue, right, is probably very advisable. I think in general, especially even the middle class, we tend to sort of underweight our problems quite a bit. I mean, going to the doctor is always seen as a sort of an indulgence or a luxury. You don't want to do it. Sometimes it's just laziness and you don't want to do it. And then you get up and then you find out it's too late and, you know, you can't work on it. Diet, I think, is one of the biggest areas where I think we need to exercise tremendous caution. For example, the way milk is being consumed, there was an ICMR study. Right now, what's happening is this packet milk that we receive at home, right, is coming from artificially inseminating an underdeveloped cow, right, causing another animal tremendous torture, having it machine milked, which means that there's pus and blood corpuscles inside the milk, mixing it with urea for preservation, and then this is the kind of thing that's causing problems as, you know, polycystic ovarian cancer, prostate cancer. All of these things were diseases that did not exist in the Indian lexicon even 30 years ago, and you are seeing now 1 in 3 or 4 people is being affected by things like this. ICMR statistics are available for everybody to go and see. Simply changing to organic milk, peanut milk or almond milk, for example. If the alternative is not possible, try and get it as fresh as possible wherever you can. Starting with simple things like that, and I think cancer is one of those. My grandfather passed away due to cancer. I think every one of our families has these stories. But my grandfather's generation, the medical science had not even advanced to the level it is today. I think early detection, I'm coming back to that, is your cure. And I think that we need to be exercising more caution, treat your bodies well, be responsible about how you lead your life, be responsible about your lifestyle choices. Everything on television and everything on the internet is not necessarily a harbinger of how you need to lead your life. You need to look at what's good for you. And your body is your best friend.
Absolutely.
It tells you when you are in trouble.
Yeah.
You need to pay heed to it.
And taking these thoughts ahead, you work extensively in this area in terms of working with children, working in terms of health. Rhapsody, is that right? So tell us more about that.
Rhapsody was my vision to bring music into the life of children, not so much as a performance art, but as a means for them to understand their world differently. And by that I mean, for example, even mathematics or science can be taught using music as a means, as a language. So if you stop treating music as a performance art which you need to be competitively good at and win some reality show, instead of doing that, you actually start reorienting yourself towards enjoying music as a language, as a natural language, and all children respond to it automatically. I'm happy to say that it's reached 125,000 children in just 4 years.
Commendable.
All across South India now, especially Tamil Nadu. I work through my association of the Nalanda Way Foundation, which also works with children in difficult circumstances but using art as an intervention. We work with the Corporation of Chennai. I've worked with children belonging to some of the most vulnerable groups in society. It's something that I do on an ongoing basis. 2 years of my concert earnings were invested into making Rhapsody a reality, and it now employs 65 music trainers whose careers, whose livelihoods have been made because
of Rhapsody.
I'll be very happy to say, because of an idea sitting in my head one fine day, and I'm justifiably proud of the work we've done.
Absolutely. And when you're not playing the piano, when you're not working on Rhapsody, that's when you go and you host a talk show.
Yeah, so I've always...
what was the first talk show's name that you...
Keys and Conversations, which I did with NDTV and The Hindu, which was musical interviews with musical stars, most of whom were my friends, most of whom are still my friends, luckily. Despite my terrible hosting of shows, I'm not as good as you. It's just that I had a piano in front of me, so that's my friend. And then now, thanks to Madan Karki, the great lyricist, who's launched this phenomenal independent music platform on the net called Dupadu.
Dupadu, yeah.
So I'm doing a show for him called 3Padu on Dupadu, where it's me with 2 other people from the cinema world, and we're discussing music. And I'm also doing in parallel what I call Anil Talkies. All of this becomes live.
You're competitors,
first week of June. You don't play the piano.
That's true.
And you have more hair, so shut up. The first week of June, I think both will go live.
You're going to go live.
I'm excited about it. A lot of people who are on your show are also on it, but singing or playing something, not talking.
Not talking. Wonderful. Last segment of the show. One-line questions, one-line answers from you.
Okay.
An advice that's from someone that's completely changed your life.
You, Srinivas, who told me to stop looking for validation from other people, but to look for answers from within.
One incident that's changed your life completely?
His death.
Yeah, and it's for everyone actually.
He was ill, and he was obviously for most of us, it was too soon for him to go. But I would say it's also made me more keenly aware that life is short, and whatever number of days we have left, we must try and contribute as much as possible.
One biggest regret of your life?
That I did my PhD instead of spending that time coming back to India and doing more music.
one singer that you completely look up to, apart from Srinivas Ji?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say, I'm not being diplomatic, but I look up to every single musician that I've worked with. Every one of them has taught me something special. Every one of them has been generous to me. So I would say everyone.
One city or a country that is the best for music culture?
Chennai.
I shouldn't be asking this question to anyone, I guess. One thing that you'd like to do apart from playing piano?
I'd like to do bungee jumping.
Have you done it before?
No, because I'm scared that I might sprain my wrist.
One thing that gives you a kick?
My wife.
A piece of...
In both the positive ways and the negative ways.
One word or a piece of message to people whom you have worked with, actually. I would want to, specially dedicate this and talk about Srinivas Ji. It's a huge loss for all of us to not have him around us today. But you have extensively worked with him, and you've had a privilege of, talking to him and knowing him. What would you like to say about him?
I think he was a child of God, and I think he was a child. I keep saying child because there was everything childlike about him. He had a sense of wonder. He was not afraid to experiment, and I think the simplest things in life gave him the greatest joys. And I think if there's one lesson that I'd like to take out of his life, and I'd say that as one piece of whatever, not advice, but one word that comes out is breathe. Every breath counts.
Miss Aruna Sairam?
Mother figure for me.
Dancer Shobana?
Great friend, extremely fun.
Srinivas Ji, singer?
Great friend, extremely fun.
Are you going to repeat it for everyone now? Chinmayi?
Extraordinarily talented and very sensitive.
Shweta Mohan?
Mad and fun.
Naresh Iyer?
One of my dearest friends in music. And I'd say he makes me feel happy just to work with him.
Naveen Iyer?
Genius.
And lastly, Mr. A.R. Rahman?
Oh my God. How do I describe this? The devil. He has, I think, single-handedly made it impossible for any of us not to work hard. I think he constantly keeps pushing the limits and making us all, constantly aware of our limitations. And every time we think we've come a certain way, he goes ahead and sets the standards even higher.
Absolutely. Your last thoughts on being with Let's Talk with Vinay?
I think what you're doing is phenomenal. I greatly appreciate that you've taken a personal loss and channelized it into so much of positivity and spreading a message to so many people and reaching out yourself to, you need not have done this at all. And I think that's inspirational. So I am a better talk show host than you are, but
let's decide that on the battleground.
I'm just joking. I couldn't go without a joke. But I think what I would like you to continue doing is doing this more, reaching out to more cities, more people, and all of us are here to help you. So let us know how much more we can do to help in any which way.
Thank you. I think Chennai has been extremely warm, and people like you.
It is 41 degrees outside.
Hot, I should say. But people like you actually, angels who come in their life to actually help. Very, very thankful. Not just coming and being a part of the show, but you've been very helpful throughout this journey of Chennai edition. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Before we let you go, a little goodie from our gift hampers, our very own P.N. Rao.
Thank you so much.
I hope you're going to like it.
This is wonderful. Thank you very much.
And now it's you and the keys.
This goes with a message: get yourself tested early. Hi, this is Anil Srinivasan, and you were just watching me on Let's Talk with Vinay. This is a phenomenal mission of spreading awareness, but at the same time having a lot of fun and getting to know more people across India. I'd like you all to subscribe to Let's Talk with Vinay on YouTube and support this mission. Be a part of it and keep spreading awareness and take care of yourself. I think I'm a very open person, and therefore I haven't had any issues with anyone.
Okay.
I've been friendly with everybody, and to be honest, I genuinely like everybody I've collaborated with as people. Frankly, that comes first.